Hey, I'm Ray Hudson, and you are, I don't know who you are, but you're listening to Blaugrana Graham. Don't be like them kids in the Blair Witch Project and go away, alright?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Driven Shot, Season 2, Episode 8, I'm pretty sure. Here with me, I've got our new co-host, Kevin. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Omar?
I'm good. Glad to have you on board. Of course, as our lovely viewers and audience here will know, this is something that I've been having in the works to kind of bring something new to The Driven Shot, and it's something I'm very happy we've done, and hopefully this episode will be a very enjoyable one because we do have quite a few things on our list. And of course, remember that you are always very much welcome to leave your comments and your questions in the chat, and we'll take them as we go on. So, Kevin, for people that don't know you, do you want to tell them what it is that you do? Kind of introduce yourself.
For sure, yeah. So my name is Kevin. I've been a Barcelona fan since 2005, so the good old Ronaldinho days. I think my first game ever watching them play was the wonderful Champions League final in 2006 against Arsenal. And really just, ever since that day, it was very hard to not be a Barcelona fan. And I'm really happy to be here with you guys and get the show started.
Awesome. All right, so we have a few things in our on our list, and of course, if you guys have any suggestions to things you'd like our opinion on, feel free to drop them in the comments. That's what they're for. And before we start, I just want to preface and say that if you do not already follow us on our social media channels, feel free to do so. We're always looking to provide you with high quality content about everything Barcelona. So if you want to stay tuned, that's the place to go. Now, with that being said, of course, looking at Barcelona right now, looking at the date is February 3rd. So the transfer window more or less just closed its doors. And of course, a name that was very heavily dropped with a very, very high price tag and a very high contract was Lionel Messi.
Yes.
That free kick goal, even when you rewatch it, it's still something where you're like, how the hell did that even happen?
Honestly, not even rewatching it, but just hearing you say that free kick goal, it brings a smile to my face, honestly, because it was simply out of control in the sense that you can prepare all you want for a free kick of his, but he knows exactly what he's going to do. You can set somebody laying down right behind the wall. You can set somebody right at the goal line, and that's exactly what Atletico did, and it didn't work. Upper 90 shot.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think as well it was also quite poetic, the timing of it, given everything that was going on and everything that people were saying about Barcelona. The fact that he scores that after a bit of a free kick goal drought to then retain his spot as one of the top free kick takers. In my eyes, the top free kick taker, especially in recent times.
Sure.
It's one of those things where it's beautiful. It's genuinely beautiful to see it. And I think that maybe, in a sense, kind of solidifies that, yes, he still is an important factor to this team. Looking at him, go on.
No, I was going to say that I think it falls in line very nicely with what you said, where there was so much speculation with everything going on with Messi since the summer. And then now with everything coming out over his contract and what it's worth and everything else, and then he scores his goal, and it's proof that he's fundamental to the team. He's almost a requirement for the club to retain and to further nurture like that that relationship with Messi, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm very confident that goals like this and performances like this really solidifies his stance for the club.
Definitely, 100%. Now, before we move on to the next point, we have Baller VFX, who says, "Yo, hey man, nice to meet you. Thank you for tuning in." Jaddy Eliassine says, "Hello to you too. Thank you for tuning in." So, of course, we've spoken about Messi and spoken about how important he is. Another aspect of the team that people really are looking into, and really some people are ripping into,
Mm,
is the defense and
mm,
stability, lack of pace. Do we have players who just rely on pace, so on and so forth?
yeah.
And two names that have been very mentioned, other than Oscar Mingueza, of course, is
Hmm.
Clement Longley and Samuel Umtiti, because,
Yes.
of course, Longley has had a dip of form. I don't think that's a secret.
Mm,
Umtiti has been, for me at least, he's looked quite comfortable whenever he has been playing, which he
yeah,
has done quite a lot recently.
for
But
sure.
I know that a lot of people look at Clement Longley and go, "Yeah, no, his time is over. Sevilla, they robbed us, and all that stuff." The way I see it is, you're talking about a guy who's played virtually every game, especially all the
Hmm.
big games, for so long that of course his body is going to crack at some point. He's going to need a bit of a break. And when you play at so many games, unless you're Lionel Messi, you're not going to be able to just maintain that, especially as a defender. And
Mm,
especially when there's so much rotation going on at the back. Uh, you know, they went with Oscar Mingueza on the right back position for so long. Now Roberto is back. Dest is soon
yep.
hopefully going to be back. And it's a lot. It's a lot to
Yeah.
deal with as a defender. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think his time is up, or do you think he just needs a break?
So personally, ever since Lenglet is a sensitive topic for me because I personally was never a big fan of the signing itself,
Hmm.
which is totally, everybody has their own opinions and everything. That's just my thought.
Hmm.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that Sevilla robbed us or anything like that, but I would go as far as saying that Clement's his ability to play is undoubtedly good enough for the club, but I do believe that we could have gone for a much bigger signing, considering the importance of defense in the back.
Hmm.
Somebody who pairs very nicely with Piqué. I imagine Umtiti and Lenglet were supposed to be the future pairing, and it makes sense, right? Both French national team players,
Definitely.
Umtiti, the World Cup winner and whatnot. Umtiti is a player I've loved since the World Cup, and ever since he joined the club, I was just like, this is it. This is the future right here. Such a young player and everything.
Mm.
Um, but I think to your point, about how some defenders need breaks and whatnot. I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I think defenders, especially in La Liga, um, are nowhere near as physically beat up as
Hmm.
they are in, say, other leagues.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't
Yeah.
know if Lenglet really needs a break. I think there might be a dip in form due to lack of concentration. It could be he's just not mentally in the game. It could also be something as far as uh, him being a little bit, there's competition now for that starting spot.
Yeah, there
Umtiti's
is.
back. Umtiti's back. He's fully fit. Everybody knew what Umtiti could do since his days, since we saw him play basically at his peak or close
Yeah.
to his peak in the 2018 World Cup. So I think all those factors are things to consider when we're looking at how the defense will line up for the remainder of the season. Uh, Personally,
Definitely.
I'd love to see Umtiti stick with the starting in the starting 11. I think he deserves it. I think he has the credentials for it.
Hmm.
Besides just the World Cup winning title and everything, but just his numbers are also far more impressive.
Yeah.
He was injured for a couple of months, but it's one of those things that I think we just as a club kind of just need to just support whoever is on the starting 11. But at the end of the day, just also recognize that if you're on the starting 11, it's for a reason,
Yeah.
and the player needs to basically make sure that they wear the badge proudly like that.
No, definitely. So
Yeah.
that leads me on to kind of a sub question to that. You know, you have Umtiti, who's obviously gone back to being in good form.
Hmm.
And I recall back when Longley was about to be signed, of course, the big name that Barcelona wanted to go for before that was Aymeric Laporte, who at the time played for
Yep.
Athletic Club. And then he went on to Manchester City. Then they looked to sign Inigo Martinez, who then also moved. I believe he was at La Real at the time. So those were some names. I think Laporte would have been an excellent signing if they got their hands on him.
Agreed.
And quite frankly, when Longley was signed, I didn't exactly know what to expect, because from what I recall, he was decent, and that was about it. Like he wasn't a standout player at the time. Since then, he's slowly become one of my favorite players to watch because of the way he carries the ball, because of the way he defends, because of his mentality and his attitude off the pitch, which I don't think has been brought enough light on.
Agreed.
That's definitely something. I remember he had an interview with El Periódico a while back, maybe a year ago at this point, a very lengthy one that we also put up. If you do want to read that, it is on bloggranagram.com, where he basically spoke about what he does after the games, what he does before the games. And his mentality is absolute top-notch, which is one of the reasons why I love him as a player. But again, looking at it now, of course, Eric Garcia, name very heavily mentioned. Do you think that him with Ronald Araujo, Oscar Mingueza, you have Umtiti, Piqué coming back, hopefully, do you think that for Barcelona would be a solid defense, or do you think they need more if they want to compete at the top?
No, I think Eric Garcia would be an excellent signing. I think any player, if you can sign any player that has learned something about the game under Pep Guardiola, is a good signing. I think you know what I mean. So I think
definitely.
Yeah, so I think signing Eric Garcia would definitely boost overall IQ, just overall intelligence on the field, and like what to do and how to clear the ball and everything. I think sometimes what I have noticed over the last couple of months is that we either start to track back too much, and then we just either launch the ball, or we start making really, really risky passes where we end up losing it in the final third. Versus if we look at, for example, the way Pep Guardiola has always liked to play when he was at Barcelona, is always starting from the back, but always keeping the players moving finding those spaces. And I'm just not personally seeing that right now. Like you can get your passes through the middle or down the sides and whatnot, but I think signing a player like Eric Garcia would definitely mitigate a lot of that unnecessary risk that our defense is currently taking on.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think he is one of those players that, although to some people now, while a couple of months ago when he really was in good form, a lot of people were saying, yes, he's the one Barcelona need, and then now, because he's had a dip of form, maybe because of a lack of concentration, knowing that Barcelona are knocking on the door and whatnot, people are now saying no, he's not the one they need, and it's just so reactionary. You know what I mean? I think Eric Garcia, especially for free, would be an absolute bargain for Barcelona.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. His contract runs out in the summer, and as far as I remember, he hasn't renewed one, at least not publicly. At least not what's publicly known. I don't think he's renewed his contract.
Yeah, I don't think he would renew it, especially knowing that he's on Barcelona's radar.
Especially
I'm sure he's had his discussions with Pep, and Pep is probably encouraging him. Yeah, absolutely. Why would you not? You don't say no to Barcelona, so to speak.
Yeah, I think also the key factor to that would also be the fact that he is not coming to Barcelona to be a player that sits on the bench for 85 minutes. He's coming on to Barcelona to be one of the key players, one of the regular starters.
Right.
At least so I'd imagine, given the defense. So
yeah, I would imagine the same. I think the question is then, of course, who is going on the bench?
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, if you put a big name player on the bench, strategically speaking, you put him on the bench, he becomes unhappy. Barcelona sell him, cash in, slowly work away from their debt. Which obviously also is a factor to consider. Done Official B in the chat says, injuries aside, Araujo and Umtiti are a good bet for the future. I would not disagree with that. I think that's very viable. I think that's I could see that. I could see that
as well.
Araujo has been very, very impressive.
For his age, yes.
Yeah.
For his age, he's a fantastic player, and I think Araujo has a wonderful future at the club. I think it just comes down to he's part of the long-term project
Mm-hmm.
versus, we have to balance out how the club moves forward with competitions like La Liga, as well as Champions League. I could see that pairing for Copa del Rey,
Mm-hmm.
La Supercopa de España, things of that nature. But when it comes to Champions League play, you need,
You
I
need
think
someone
coming up,
experienced at least. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely, definitely.
yeah,
Uh, you know, and that's the thing where you kind of want to make sure that it's not deemed as a valid, so to say, quote unquote, excuse
mm,
from Barcelona fans to say, hey, they're using someone from La Masia. Well, okay, but if they have someone who's experienced on the
mm,
bench that is in good form, that person should be used for those games just because he has experience, you know?
for sure.
Um, Speaking of new players and new signings and so on and so forth, of course, Frankie de Jong isn't really a new name anymore,
Mm,
but Barcelona snubbed him right in front of PSG. And when he joined Barca, he had a different role to the
mm,
role he has now. And I think now he seems a bit more complete because
mm.
before this he seemed a bit more limited. I don't know what how do you think he's been doing?
What I love about Frankie De Jong is the way he touches the ball, the way he controls the game in the midfield and everything. I know one of the things that frustrated me the most last season from
Hmm.
seeing him play is that they pushed him too much to the sides.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Frankie, he's not the fastest player on the
Yeah.
field. He's amazing with the ball. His vision is out of control, but he's also not going to be able to outrun somebody like a Valverde from Madrid,
Yeah.
simply because he just doesn't have the pace like that. But I think seeing him now this season, or at least under Ronald Koeman, it almost like there's that Dutch connection and that Dutch understanding of like, okay, this is how Frankie used to play Ajax. This is the way he plays for the national team. This is where he's most comfortable. Therefore,
Mhm.
let's play him there.
Yeah.
And I've been very happy seeing him there. He tracks back. He reminds me. I mean, I know there's nobody like a Busquets, but he is very much playing the Busquets role, where he goes back, receives the ball, distributes, and
Definitely.
that's what's worked, and that's what similarly he used to do at Ajax, and we saw what Ajax did it back in 2018, 2019 season, and there's a possibility for us to replicate that because we have the
Definitely.
players, we have the talent for it, and De Jong is. We're kind of just living in De Jong's world when we're on the field, besides Messi's world. But De Jong is really the
Yeah.
one who pulls the strings there.
Yeah, no, he's definitely been it feels like he's been rejuvenated when you look at the way he's playing, look at the way he's controlling the ball. He plays with so much confidence now. He's
For
actually gone
sure.
up and scored a few goals.
Yeah,
Uh,
which is a
which I
little.
think is very interesting because he that's
It
not
is
a fourth of it. That's not something he used to do that often
right.
for Ajax. And yet in the past couple of games he's been the one scoring for Barcelona. Barring Antoine Griezmann, who's also a very interesting topic because all of a
Mm.
sudden it seems like he's slowly fitting in.
Yeah, he is slowly fitting in, which is. I don't want to say it's that. We've been waiting for a long
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
and that's fine, and I'm glad that the club as well as all its fans have been very patient with Griezmann. I still think that he hasn't reached his ceiling at the club yet, but I
yeah,
do
definitely
think
agree.
that his recent goals against Athletic Club, I believe, as well as just other teams over the last couple of weeks, have been all crucial to Barcelona's just overall confidence. And I
Hmm.
think him scoring, consecutively, whether it be 2 goals a game or even week over week,
Yeah,
definitely boosts his morale, and you could see like what it meant for like him to score, and like everybody kind of just coming around him and just saying like you're good, you're good, you're good,
that
and
celebration was absolutely beautiful.
yeah, it was
Uh,
great.
it's one of those, and I know this might feel very weird or very sentimental or whatever, but when you look at other teams and you see they have this very strong team spirit, like when Athletic Club won the Supercopa,
Mm,
and they had this whole ceremony with Acer Via Libre on the trumpet and stuff. That stuff is amazing.
yeah,
That's how you want your team to be. You want from the outside as well to be able to see that there is this team spirit. And
yeah,
up until that goal that Griezmann scored, I don't think we had seen that as much.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I think there's been a lot of I don't know if there's been locker room tension, but I think there's more so on the field tension of
Yeah,
this, everybody putting a lot of pressure on one another. But whenever we see these quote unquote underperformers score, it's a beautiful thing, and it's kind of just more like keep
definitely.
doing it. And then the same thing to what you said earlier about Frankie De Jong. Frankie De Jong is somebody who traditionally doesn't score, but he's been
But
scoring.
yeah,
You know,
and yeah, definitely. I
so
think
it
yeah,
really it really boosts I think it really just hypes everybody up on the
for
field.
sure. Yeah, no, definitely. I think as well that maybe is more or less perfect timing considering Barcelona have Paris in the Champions League very soon.
Mm,
Of course, Paris have had their ups and downs this season. Kylian Mbappe's blue hair wasn't exactly the best decision.
yeah.
But hairstyles aside, of course they parted ways with Thomas Tuchel, who now took over the reins at Chelsea.
Hmm.
Lampard is now a free agent. Valverde is still a free agent. Andrés Boas left Marseille.
Hmm.
So just a lot of movements in the league in France, and also for Paris, they've gotten Mauricio Pochettino. Of course, some injuries here and there, and I think that if there was a time for Barcelona to show their team spirit and show that they have this sense of unity,
Hmm.
that time is now. Like there's no better time to do it than now.
Agreed. 100%.
Uh,
The matchup against PSG will probably be the biggest test for us this season so far. I mean, we had Juventus over 2 games in the group stage, but
mm,
group stage matches aren't the same as knockout rounds.
for sure, for sure, they're very, very different. The tension is different, even
Hmm.
without fans.
Correct.
So looking at some of the comments here in the chat, thank you for sending them. It's awesome. Keep sending them. Let's keep interacting. That's what this show is for. D.
For
Sanchez
sure.
1969 asks why we couldn't bring back Todibo, why Barcelona let go of Todibo. So of course, if you didn't know, Jong Todibo was originally on loan at Benfica. His loan with Benfica was since prematurely terminated. It was supposed to last
Mm,
until the end of the season, was terminated, and he was then sent on loan to French side Nice to the end of the season with a buy option.
mm,
So I remember when he was sent over, when he was sent to Benfica initially,
mm.
the first thing I thought was that's a mistake because the way I see it, he's a very versatile player, skillful player, and he has confidence on the ball, which you need to have if you're in Barcelona. And I
For
think
sure.
maybe that collided with at the time. I believe Barcelona had Andre Gomes as well, who's now moved to
Mm,
Everton. They had some players who seemed like they didn't quite fit in, and I think maybe because of that he kind of stood out a bit more.
mm.
I still believe that he could have a future at Barcelona, although obviously if Nice do buy him, that's pretty much game over.
Mm.
But I do you think they should have let go of him? I mean, now obviously they have Araujo and Mingueza, so you could argue that maybe they had the backup. But even then,
I
what do
think
you
it's
think?
it's hard to tell because sure, I think you can be great on the ball and everything. But I think it ultimately comes down to did he have that chemistry with the
Yeah,
other defenders? It's possible that he didn't. You could be great on the ball, you could have that vision, you could have the pace to play the left back position, which is a very, very demanding role in Barcelona.
mm,
Um, but if he's just not really on the same wavelength as uh, whether it be the other defenders or even uh, the three up top, it might not necessarily just be part of the project, so to
yeah,
speak. So I personally think it was probably the best decision to make. That way, we can also give these young players the opportunity to play because I also wouldn't think it's fair for us to just hold on to players just because. Um,
definitely,
you
definitely.
know, so I think, I think there was no real demanding reason to keep him.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense. I guess that
Yeah.
does make sense. Looking at some of the comments here, Chase the Vase says, "Omar, hey man, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it." JD El Yassin again says, "I think the confidence with the locker room now is very high, and it makes everyone in Barcelona perform better." I would definitely agree, and I
For
think
sure.
it's something we definitely saw last game out. De Sanchez 1969 says, "Mingueza came out of nowhere thanks to Koeman." Now, Koeman has been criticized a lot since his arrival at
Mm.
Barcelona. Of course, took over from Quique Setién, but you could also say that he has done a lot of things right. The emergence of a lot of these youngsters, the trust he's put in them, players like Pedri, has gotten a lot of playing time. Of course, you could argue, well, what about Puig? But then again, they do sort of they play in a similar way, and it's one or the other. And Pedri, to his credit, has been very, very impressive. And it's very difficult to just drop a player that's playing extremely well.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, so the situation with Pedri and Puig is a sensitive one because they play similarly, but at least what we saw from Puig a lot over the summer, or even in the beginning of the season, is that he was playing a much more. He seems a lot more comfortable in the back versus
he does
versus Pedri, who likes to push up. He could push up. He has the pace for it and everything else. He also has the strength for it.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's a massive Puig fan. I mean, I love Puig, but if you were to ask me, would you rather see De Jong or Puig on the field? I'm going to say De Jong, simply because of experience, because of overall presence on the field. I think a lot of those things have to do with a winning mentality, and that's what Koeman came to do. He came to win for the club. He came to win trophies, and I'd love to see Puig play a bit more of an active role, but at the same time, I don't know if the formation would really make sense for us to have two pivotes in the back or anything like that, because that would really push us back a little bit. That would push us back a little bit too much when right now we have defensive errors, sure, but the question is, again, of course, are we scoring enough goals? Are we ending games by the 60th minute or 70th minute versus nail biters until the 90th?
Yeah,
that's you know what I mean. So I would much rather see us, like, defense wins championships, but offense also wins games. So I think it just depends on the context of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think on one hand I understand why Ricky Puig isn't playing. On the other hand, I would love for him to play, but as you said, it's tough to play him. I mean, obviously, one thing that's been really surprising me a bit is, as far as I recall, Pedri at Las Palmas used to play as an attacking mid or as a winger. Now, when you're experimenting on the wing, Trincao is constantly Koeman's choice,
Right.
which you could argue, fair enough. You want to give the guy confidence, you want to ease him in. That's okay. And then when he's not playing well, he takes him out or he lets him play the 90 minutes, because those are probably the only 90 minutes he's going to get for the next 4 games.
Right.
Depending on Koeman's plans, of course. My question is, if you want to play Puig and Pedri at the same time, why not play Puig in Pedri's spot and then push Pedri out to the wing? If you're going to experiment on one of the wings anyways, and he has the pace to do it, and we have seen him multiple times where he's already out there on that wing, I think that would make sense. But then that also raises the question of, is it because Koeman thinks that Puig is, whether that's attitude or whether that's he just doesn't think he fits in with how the team plays, or whether he thinks his level isn't good enough? Personally, I think he's shown that he's definitely more than worthy of being a starter in Barcelona. 100%. At least for even if it's not for the big, huge, whether that's quarterfinals or knockout stages. But I think for me, he's definitely shown that he's more than worthy to be a La Liga starter. And it still baffles my mind, if Koeman already is experimenting on one of the wings, why not just push Pedri out there and put Puig as a number 10?
I mean, if we want to experiment with wings, then again, it comes down to the question: who's going on the bench? Because Dembele has also been in form.
Dembele has been really, really good.
Really, really good. Messi's there. That's we know he's not moving.
Yeah.
He's not moving. So I mean, I get your point and all, but again, I think it comes down to Puig is probably more of a long-term prospect.
Yeah.
Versus right now, to be quite frank, Barcelona needs results. We need points. We need trophies. We need to find our winning ways once again, and there has to be a healthy balance of experimentation there. But I think ultimately it kind of comes down to, again, the question of, like, if you ask me what player you'd rather have on the field when we need to win? Jong. I'd rather have Dembele on the field. Pedri, of course, he's an exciting prospect and everything. But this is an adjustment year for him too. Same thing. Like everybody expected Ansu Fati to always be starting, but he's not. Simply because there's still a ton for these young players to learn.
Definitely. I mean, of course, his injury didn't help, but
Of
other
course.
than that, he is very, very young. So you'd have to at some point try something new, especially if you have Dembele, you have a Griezmann, you have, of course, you have a Messi, a Martin Braithwaite, Trincao. So there just are a lot of names that have to be circulated, and I think that's one of those things that just happened, especially now, as you said, Barcelona are at the point now where they really want and they really need those results.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely something to consider. Looking at the transfer window, of course, as we said, it is closed, but there is also one coming in the summer. So if I told you pick a dream signing or two, who would you go for?
The dream signing?
Yeah, like let's say a realistic, and let's say one like. If you could get any player in the world to Barcelona, who would you bring? And you guys in the comments can also try this one.
I mean, we had this discussion a few days ago too, but Memphis Depay for me is number one. He's undoubtedly like the striker that we need. He would have been the perfect person to fill in Suarez's shoes and everything. And I understand the financial situation that the club is in, but again, I see it more as an investment, and if signing a player like Memphis Depay means earning trophies and everything else that comes with it, I see it as a win-win.
Yeah,
how about you?
No, definitely. It's tough to say, I think Eric Garcia for one. Definitely. Mainly, he's a great player, but he's also free, so it's a no-brainer the way I see it.
For sure.
I don't know exactly.
We need to pay for.
A player we need to pay for. I mean, if Barcelona could get Haaland, that would be amazing. I don't think they will, mainly because he's doing well at Dortmund. He seems happy there, and I'd be surprised if they'd let go of him for a smaller fee. But obviously, if there is a release clause type thing, then that's different. And obviously, that would allow him to join. If I had to choose between Memphis or Haaland, I would probably choose Haaland because of his age. But if he's not available, I would probably go with Memphis as well. I think I still don't – the way I see Memphis is he's a very talented player, skillful player. He's got pace. But I don't know if he's – from what I've seen of him at least, he excels more on the wing than he excels as a striker. And maybe that's changed since I last saw him play. But I think that Barca do need an out-and-out number 9. I think Haaland could be the answer.
True.
Memphis could also work, but then you really, really have to be aware not to end up in another Griezmann situation. Or a Coutinho situation. And that's my only concern really with him.
That's fair. I think that's a valid concern too, because we thought that the interchangeability between Messi and Griezmann on the wing and then the middle and whatnot would work, but it's just it's in theory it works, but I think when it comes down to actually playing on the field, it's a different story.
Definitely. Let's take a look at some questions in chat. We've gotten quite a lot now. That's good. Nice. Keep them coming. So let's see. The last one, from what I recall, was this one. D. Sanchez 1969. Says, you guys agree? Do you guys agree that Griezmann plays better without Messi on the pitch? I don't know if I agree with that, mainly because I think he's slowly gotten to a point now where he can link up with Messi without it actually hurting him.
Yeah.
I feel like theoretically he should be playing better without Messi because they occupy the similar spaces and they, in theory, do the same things. I don't think he's shown that without Messi, though. And I think that also comes down to the fact that he's still adapting. And that's another thing, with Griezmann, is that people forget that he has to adapt because he's a La Liga player. He's been playing in La Liga for years and years and years. But he's been playing at La Real, he was playing on the wing. Then he was playing as a striker in an extremely defensive, hard-working Cholo side, right? So it's just a very different thing to try and play in Barcelona, especially when they've had so many managerial changes. Which also has to be considered.
Yeah, I
So
think that's one thing that a lot of people tend to forget. Griezmann has basically had to adjust to three different managers, very,
definitely,
very quickly. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I fully agree with that statement either.
All right, let's take a look at the next one. Ferris says we can't forget about Coutinho either. Yes, he should be
Mm,
sold, but the fact is that he's here and on huge wages, so Koeman has to play him. I don't know how I feel about Coutinho because I still think he can bring a lot to this Barcelona side. Quite frankly, and I know this might be a hot take, when the season started, he was the most consistent performer for Barcelona when he was playing.
hmm I can
He
see that.
was he was orchestrating the play. He was getting, from what I recall, he was getting goals. He was at the very least getting assists. I think he got a goal or two. He was playing very well. He was very lively. He looked very confident. He looked like he had come off that Bayern diet to come and show off in Barcelona, and it looked like it was working. Then he
hmm
got injured, came back, and looked like the Coutinho we saw before his Bayern move, which I also think has to do with the fact that he had to recover from his injury and then got injured
mm
again. I don't think that he should be sold because I genuinely believe that he has a future at Barcelona. Um, and I think if he can show what he showed when he came back to Barcelona, if he can show that form, there is no reason to sell him. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he should be sold?
Absolutely not. No, I'm a big fan of Coutinho. I mean, obviously we can't compare it to his days at Bayern, but he came back in a completely different physical form. He needs
Mm,
to readapt to the way Barcelona plays. Very different to what they do
at
at
Bayern.
Munich.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I think Coutinho is one of those players that we need to keep because he is a massive assist generator, and definitely has an aesthetic to his play that could really break apart defenses.
definitely. And that's one of the things where, if you look at it, I would hate if I would really be annoyed if I saw Barcelona sell him and he just had started balling anywhere else.
Yeah, of course.
You know, because he is such a quality player, and then that would lead you to thinking, well, why didn't he succeed at Barcelona?
hmm
And at first, people might have said, yeah, it's Valverde, or yeah, it's Etienne, or whatever. Now that we've been through 3 different managers with Barcelona, right? And something's got to give. So
Yeah,
I don't think he should be sold, quite frankly, and
yeah,
neither do you. And I'm glad you agree.
no way.
um, so let's all right, awesome. All right, let's take a look at some other questions. We've gotten quite a lot. Daniel Onis says every time Puig gets a start, he isn't performing. I don't know if I agree with that.
Debatable.
Debatable.
Depends on who. It
Yeah,
depends on who they're going up against.
let's keep it at debatable.
Yeah.
Next one, down official B. Is Koeman doing a good job with managing players about minutes played, especially Pedri, Messi, Frankie? We have been sort of over this, I think. I think he's
Yeah.
doing well. I think he's doing a good job with it. Obviously nurturing Pedri, making sure that Frankie plays in a role he's comfortable in. Messi, of course, now slowly getting rest, which I think is really, really good.
hmm
So, yeah, I think the short answer from me is yes. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah. No, I agree. We touched on it and everything, and I think Koeman is just also he's doing a good job. He's just also figuring out what the best system is for a winning side.
Definitely. Chase says Barcelona needs to sign Omar as FIFA player in reference to pro clubs, and I fully agree. So now this is back to the dream signing question we were talking about. We got quite some entries here. Neymar, just because he would make Messi stay without a doubt, and he's the second best player in the world. I completely forgot about Neymar. I would love for Neymar to come back to Barcelona personally. I know what he did was not okay, but but that doesn't change the fact that, in my eyes at least, he's still a top 2 player when fit. He's a top 2 in the world for me when fit, and only
100%.
second to Messi.
100%.
So
I mean,
think,
I'd like to sign him too, but then I believe he just signed a 4-year contract with PSG. So
yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, from what I've read, he is close to signing that. So
yeah, the dream is dead.
Yeah,
The dream is dead, basically.
pretty much.
He'll be 30 by the time that ends. So
Oh yeah, he will. Yeah, that's true actually.
yeah.
So Fares says Holland is my absolute dream signing in the summer because it's happened too often now, where we create, but can't finish. I think I think Holland would be a great signing for Barcelona, especially if it's, if it's in for good money, that doesn't completely kill their wallets. But I guess we'll have to wait and see which player they go for. So Daniel Onis says Alaba or Garcia, 100%. Interesting, actually. David Alaba would be an interesting player. From what I've read, he is close to Real Madrid, but he would also be an interesting card, I think.
He would be. I mean, I've been a huge fan of his. I think he's a fantastic player. He's super versatile. Like, how do you start off your career at a left back, but then end up like center back, but then could easily just transition back to a left back position? Yeah, and then to a midfielder and everything. Like, that's out of control. I don't know if that's just a product of being part of the Munich system, or if he just has that natural talent in him. Alaba would be a great signing. Yeah. I just, I don't imagine him coming at a price tag that the club could realistically afford. I would imagine,
especially because his wages definitely play a big role.
Yeah, his wages play a big role. He's still extremely young, so that's still something. He's in his mid-20s. That's something that we'd have to, I think when it comes to signing any player, you got to look at that too.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah. And Jade Ilyasin, correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name, also agrees with the Holland and Garcia combo. Looks like that's an interesting one. Faddis has a question for you, Kev. He says, "Isn't Depay's position and role similar to Griezmann's?"
Yeah, I saw this comment, and I think we kind of touched on it.
Yeah,
right?
We did. Yeah,
we touched on it. They're very similar, but I think one thing is to consider is there's always that Dutch connection that I truly believe it comes down to. Koeman knows how De Jong operates, and Koeman knows how Memphis Depay would operate. So I think he'd be able to set a system in place where the two players, both Griezmann and Depay, are also disciplined enough that they'd follow through with it.
Definitely. And also, as far as Memphis goes, sources have confirmed to me that he is Barcelona's top target in the summer because of Ronald Koeman. So that's going to be very interesting to see what they do there. And Faddis says about Haaland that Dortmund are in huge financial trouble right now, reportedly, and they may consider letting him go for a cut price if it comes down to it. Again, could be interesting to see if that happens. I think Dortmund will fix their financial issues, and they're not usually a club that is very keen on letting go of players if they can't get a good amount of money for it. So
for sure,
I guess we'll have to see. They are. So
I do have a quick comment / question though regarding Haaland. Let's say in a dream world, we see Haaland actually signing for Barcelona. Does that mean Braithwaite leaves, or does he stay on the field? Does he stay at the club?
That's an interesting question, because then you'd have to remember there's Griezmann, who is in this system a striker / center forward. You have Messi, who can play there. You'll have Haaland, which I think it really depends on Braithwaite's other offers. I definitely think if he does decide to leave, at that point he would get some good offers. But I mean, from what sources have told me, he is very happy at the club. The club are happy with him. They have no plans of letting go of him. So I think that if they do at some point buy a striker, they will also make sure that he knows what his role is. So like I feel like if it gets to a point where they buy Haaland and they look and Braithwaite looks to go, they're not going to hold tight on him. If he wants to leave, they're not going to keep a hold of him. But if he wants to stay, they're not going to say no. That's how I would imagine things going, at least.
I can see that. Yeah.
You guys in the live chat, you also let us know, what do you think would happen to Braithwaite? What do you think would happen to Griezmann or Coutinho if Barcelona made another signing? Theoretical, but very interesting nonetheless. Neelex says, will Barca sign anyone? Please call it my name, Neelex. Hey, Neelex. Nice to meet you. Thank you for tuning in. I do see Barcelona making a signing or two in the summer, personally. Sure. I would be very, very surprised. Daniel here was talking to Faddis, and I think that's about it. We have one here from Daniel Onage saying Alaba is currently free though, right? End of contract. He's very talented covering for PK, Alaba, and Busquets, and he's learned a lot under Pep Guardiola. Definitely has, and he is free, but his wages, I think, are the main issue for clubs wanting to sign him. So,
yeah.
And again, I think that's definitely something, especially when you have as many big names in your team as Barcelona have. Also, the same thing for Real Madrid. But from what I've read around, it seems like Madrid are keen on letting go of Sergio Ramos. So that would mean that frees up a gap in the wages, and then they could get Alaba.
And they might also. I think they might let go of Jovic. No, I mean I know he's on loan again.
That could, yeah,
the possibility of letting him go exists too.
I can see that, yeah. Also, another interesting one is Eden Hazard. If they let go of him too, that's a big chunk of the wage bill right there.
It's so funny because right before we hopped on this conversation, I had just tweeted out that I think Eden Hazard needs to be sold this summer. One way or another, if I were Real Madrid, just take the loss because
just cut your losses and get rid of him.
You're gonna
definitely. And it's
he's too much of a PR nightmare now. Everybody's just covering the club for the wrong reasons and everything, and he's just It's difficult.
It's a very strange situation as well because you look at the way he was signed and everything, and he really did seem like the real deal. Like he was going to come in there, was his dream move, and he was going to prove everyone that he was ready to leave Chelsea and go to Real Madrid
at 30.
And at 30, exactly. So I really don't know where it went wrong, but from the opposite side of it, it's been a quite comical look. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
D Sanchez 1969 says, "Is it just me, or does Messi not want to pass the ball to Braithwaite?" I don't know. I haven't personally noticed that, but then again, I think it all comes down to chemistry. I think it's difficult to get chemistry with a team that you don't play in very often from Braithwaite's perspective. And I think now recently he has been playing more than he used to for Barcelona. He's been somewhat of a starter, not a regular starter, but he's been somewhat of a starter. And I think that's definitely something to consider. And I do see that. Improving soon, hopefully for Barcelona. Last question before we wrap this up by JD Eliassine. Again, thank you everyone for your questions and your comments, and hopefully we'll do this again. We will do this. We will do this every Wednesday, so hopefully we'll see you here as well. He says, if we get Haaland, should we then sell Braithwaite for like 5 to 10 million? He says then we should sell Braithwaite for like 10 to 5 million. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a bit of a small fee, especially given the inflation in the market. But I could see that I could see him being sold. But again, all depends on how he's feeling and how the club is feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we did have some other comments here against Ramos and stuff, but we'll keep that for another time. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for your comments. Kevin, thank you very much for hopping on. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, yeah, for sure.
On that note, we'll see you all next time. Thank you very much. And roll that outro by Phil Shane from BN Sports.
My name is Phil Shane, and you've been listening to The Driven Shot, hosted by Omar Hawwash and the Blaugranagram news outlet. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.